Hello, my name is Miss Jones and I'm the Deputy Director of Radyr Sixth Form. I'm also an experienced member of the Welsh Bac team, and so I'm going to talk you through the Advanced Welsh Baccalaureate qualification and how we deliver it here at Radyr and what the learning experience is likely to be for learners as well. So there are four main components that will make up the lesson time and obviously whatever's needed outside of the lessons in order for students to reach the whole qualification. These are made up of 3 challenges and then the individual project. So the actual titles of the areas of the Welsh Baccalaureate are the same that would have been studied at Key Stage 4. It's just that the content differs and obviously the challenge accelerates in order to be in line with the other subjects and the other challenges that students also being tested against. So in essence, this qualification is equivalent to either the level 3 BTECs or the A levels that students are studying alongside it. So the first challenge, which we start off with at the beginning of year 12, is the community challenge. This is worth 15%. And what this involves is identifying, developing and participating in some kind of opportunity that the student takes charge of that will benefit a community. So we'll think about what a community is. In the past, students have worked within the school to work with particular departments and different year groups. But obviously in light of the current situation, we're going to have to do things a little differently and we're going to have to think outside the box in terms of how students can benefit the community, but maybe on a smaller scale and maybe taking advantage of virtual opportunities to do so. So the first thing they'll do that they'll be assessed on is a community activity proposal, which takes place in a controlled assessment in which the students will outline everything that they plan to do and all of the plan and organisation skills that they've had to put into place. Then obviously we give the students the majority of the year to do the 30 hours of participation, which is what's required. So as you can imagine, 30 hours is quite a lot, and that's why we started off with them at the beginning of year 12, so they have the majority of the academic year to complete those 30 hours. And if students are well organised, they'll be just ticking away at those hour by hour, week by week, in order to make it manageable for themselves. This then will be evidence to a confirmation statement, and then lastly then at the end of the challenge, students will need to prepare a 10-minute personal reflection presentation where they look at how they got on in the community challenge, the skills they developed, and also the impacts that they had on the targeted community. Challenge 2 then is the Global Citizenship Challenge, and this again is the second challenge that we come up against in year 12. This again is worth 15%, and in this challenge what students need to do is understand and respond appropriately to a global issue. We've done all different kinds of global issues in the past. We looked at the refugee crisis, and most recently we've been looking at climate change, which is obviously something incredibly relevant to our young people that are doing this. And how students will be assessed on this challenge is, first of all, what they've got to do is learn about their topic on the global issue and how it affects different people and different contexts and the environment, etc. And then by looking at resources, credible resources, they've got to reach their own personal standpoint on the topic. So they'll have a particular question phrased to them, and then they need to respond to that question with their own views, but obviously supporting their own views with credible sources and information that's out there. Once they've done that and they've actually tackled, the problem and come to show understanding of that and to have an opinion on that, then the next step is to actually think about solutions for the problem. So here students get to show great creativity and problem solving skills, and they need to come up with their own contribution, which they'll present in what we call a Global Choices Conference. Here they will either use a speech or a shorter presentation with added resources to present how they think the problem can be solved. It's all hypothetical, but obviously it's about posing sensible and effective solutions. And then once they've done that, then this challenge similarly ends in what we call a personal review, which is a written reflection on the challenge and themselves, analysing their own personal effectiveness. The third and final challenge then is one that we use to finish off year 12, and then we also pick it back up in year 13. This is because this challenge is slightly larger than the first two. It's worth 20%, and it's quite clearly divided really into two parts. One that seems more pertinent to complete in year 12, and one that seems more relevant to actually save until year 13 because of its relevance to what students are doing at that point in their studies. So the Enterprise and Employability Challenge, what do students have to do here? They need to develop enterprising skills and attributes to enhance their employability through an innovation task and an exploration of then their future education career paths. So these are the two different bits really, the innovative part and then the exploration into the career paths. So how they'll be assessed, first of all, students will have to undertake detailed skills audits and create something called a pen portrait in which they present themselves. And then in year 12, then, as well as doing that, we will complete the innovation venture proposal. So here students take a real industry brief, a real problem that's occurring within a particular industry that appeals to them, that they're interested in. So it could be anything from accountancy to astrophysics to teaching to psychology. And we'll present them with a real problem within that field, and they have got to then hypothetically come up with something that they think could alleviate that problem to some degree. It's a detailed project, and students will need to do things such as look into financial forecasts, come up with designs and prototypes, do market research, etc. So it's a really all-rounder in terms of skills. And then the second half then of this challenge we leave until the autumn term of year 13, simply because a lot of it overlaps with what students would naturally be doing at this point in their studies. They need to form something called a destination passport, which involves them looking at potential career pathways and preparing themselves for those. So looking at skill sets and what needs to be achieved in terms of qualifications, experience, etc. to move on to the next steps. And then actually doing really practical things like creating a CV, looking at current job vacancies, contacting employers to request further information on particular fields, etc. So this seems like a really obvious part to do this at the beginning of year 13 when students are thinking about these kind of things anyway. And then again, we finish off this challenge with a personal reflection presentation, this time with the students very much focusing on themselves and their employability, which is great practice for going into employment or apprenticeships or university where they may encounter interviews as well. And what we tend to do is structure it like a mock interview. So they'll present themselves, they'll go through their own little presentation, and then their teacher then will ask them competency-based questions. This then leaves us with the individual project, which makes up the remaining 50%. Now, students would have had to create an individual project with a similar kind of structure at Key Stage 4, but the word count was far less. It was only 1,000 to 2,000 words there. At this standard, then we're looking at a greater word count of 3,000 to 5,000, and obviously all of the skills, although under similar headings, are all enhanced in terms of the level of challenge. So students will have to show advanced literacy, numeracy, digital literacy skills, amongst an array of others. And what they need to do here is they need to come up with their own research question, and then basically through extensive primary and secondary research, come to a conclusion on that question. Whereas at Key Stage 4, they may have simply chosen something that they were generally interested in. The onus here is on the idea that students choose something that's going to be relevant to what they want to do in the future. And many of our students go on to discuss what they found out with their individual project and how they've engaged in the field in personal statements and in interviews either for employment or for university. And students have found this really advantageous to prove to a prospective employer or admissions team that they have done this independent research into the field and they've actually got quite a high knowledge in a particular area. So this is what the lesson time will be comprised of over the 2 years. Now, when we talk about the Welsh Baccalaureate, then everything that's encompassed in the Welsh Baccalaureate is on the screen now in this wheel. What I've talked about so far is actually officially known as the Skills Challenge Certificate. That's what the 3 challenges and the individual project make up. And the Skills Challenge Certificate is actually what uni offers are made on, etc. That's what they'll have their grade in Welsh Bac on, essentially. What they'll have their A star, A, B, C, etc. The whole Welsh Bac qualification is just simply pass or fail, and that's when you have the Skills Challenge Certificate, so all those components with your grade, in combination with your supporting qualifications, which at this level now are going to be your AS or your A levels, or your vocational qualifications like the level 3 BTECs. And also, to achieve the overall Welsh Baccalaureate, then students will need to have GCSEs in maths or numeracy and English language. And this is why if a student comes to us in sixth form not having a C or above in maths, numeracy or English language, then we encourage and support them to be able to get these qualifications by the time they leave. The Welsh Baccalaureate framework was created in response to universities and employers who said that they were seeing a real skill gap in the people that they were taking on coming from secondary and further education. So these are the 7 skills that are explicitly assessed, sometimes not in every challenge, but across the qualification as a whole. And they are literacy, numeracy, digital literacy, critical thinking and problem solving, planning and organisation, creativity and innovation, and personal effectiveness. Lots of students obviously will be able to carry these across into their subjects and transfer these skills, but it also allows for students to develop certain skills that maybe they don't get the opportunity to prove within their subject options. And this then really allows them to feed into and evidence all of these buzzwords that obviously are needed for lots of job specifications and for lots of entry requirements for certain university courses. These are obviously the kind of words and skills and attributes that employers and universities are looking at: teamwork, communication, confidence, commitment, independence, etc. And we believe that there's a place in one part at least of the Welsh Baccalaureate to evidence all of these buzzwords and skills, which will be great for personal statements and applications. The grading system for Welsh Baccalaureate is as follows. So for each piece of work or each unit of work, then the teachers will internally assess it at either being Band 1 or Band 2 or Band 3. When these components then are put into WJC, WJC turns these bands into either a distinction, a merit, or a pass accordingly. And when students receive some component results at the end of year 12, then this is what they should expect to see on their results slip, either a D for distinction, an M for merit, or P for pass. When, though, eventually the whole qualification is cashed in at the end of year 13, then students will arrive at an actual grade once all of the UMS marks have been added up together. And then they will eventually become your A stars to your E grades. So it has the full spectrum of grades across it, just as any level 3 qualification. But roughly you can see that students, if they're aiming for Band 3s, those will mean distinctions, those will mean equivalent to A stars A's. And if a student is only achieving a Band 1, then this is equivalent to a pass, which is around a D or E grade. Around 85% of UK universities take Welsh Baccalaureate, the Skills Challenge Certificate, as an equivalent to an A-level or a Level 3 BTEC. And obviously that could be 100% of a student's choices when they make those choices. That's just up to them. Here are just some examples of the kind of courses and institutions that make offers to students using the Welsh Baccalaureate as an equivalent. And students really get a lot out of the process, and at the end especially really see the perks of it. So these are just some examples of students in the past. Cardiff University initially wanted ABB for me to study German. Now I've got an offer with 2 Bs in the back. Somebody else saying the pressure's off, having the back as part of my offer means I've already got part of my entry conditions sorted before the summer, because students basically know what they're working towards, and results day is never a surprise for Welsh Bac because their teachers are able to tell them what they've been internally assessed as. Another student then saying, I talked about my Welsh Bac project in interview. They were really impressed about how much I knew about a topic studied as one of the modules and the research skills I had gained. So just a quick overview. The coordinator is Miss Willis if you need to contact her for anything, and there's links at the bottom of the page for more info.